Okay. Not Joe Christian is coming out as officially as Tom Youngjohn. Because these two channels, I can't really use them to compare to each other at all whatsoever, because there's no general's voice in this one, which is the reason why I'm doing this particular article today, because I've already practiced once, and the practice took it all out of me, like gone, right? So this is going to be no general's voice here. You can probably hear that. It's a 3-page article when it's printed out. Anyway, military convicts Andrew Cuomo, no general's voice, and my fans over at Tom Youngjohn 3, a few of them really abhor the general's voice, and it's just loaded with general's voice, and it's going to take me days to recover. I think it's interesting because it started off with a song, and then all of a sudden there's this new news. I checked it, and there's and then all of a sudden it's general voice all over the place. Okay, I'm complaining. Military convicts Andrew Cuomo by Michael Baxter over at realrawnews.com. My hero, my journalistic hero. I love you, Michael. October 13th, 2021. And let's get into the news that doesn't have the general's voice. All right, shall we? Okay. On Monday afternoon, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo learned his fate, having been held responsible for the needless deaths of thousands of senior citizens who perished during the first wave of a largely manufactured global everybody catching that thing that you can catch, C-19. There's some words that I just can't say or I'll get shut down by the algorithm. He was sentenced to death after a 3-officer panel at Guantanamo Bay heard testimony from former members of Cuomo's staff, nursing home and hospice employees, and the worker of a freight company who claimed Cuomo had threatened to bankrupt the company unless it converted 18-wheelers into a fleet of roving freezers and crematoriums. From the moment he entered the courtroom, Cuomo was combative, belligerent, and argumentative, hurling obscenities at both Rear Admiral Darcy E. Crandall and the panel chosen to weigh the merits of the military's case against him. He admonished the Office of Military Commissions, calling it an affront to the criminal justice system and the American way of life. And now for my terrible I don't have a Brooklyn accent. Never in my gubernatorial career or my years as a lawyer have I seen such a fucking miscarriage of justice. You people are really pieces of shit. Pretend that was a Brooklyn accent. Thank you. Cuomo said during a brief opening statement. The brevity of his argument was not by choice. Had he the chance, Cuomo would have castigated the court until his voice went hoarse. But Rear Admiral Crandall quickly put an end to Cuomo's theatrics and shenanigans by instructing Gitmo security to gag his mouth and shackle his ankles to a chair. We have zero tolerance for staginess and theatricality in this chamber, Rear Admiral Crandall said. The witnesses will be heard. The first witness to appear on Zoom was a woman named Michelle Steiger, a former administrator at the Cobble Hill Health Center in Brooklyn. She testified that on March 26, 2020, the facility received a sudden influx of alleged C-19, that thing you can catch, patients, 65 in all, from area hospitals, even though the senior living facility had enough beds to accommodate less than half that amount. We were told, old woman voice. We were told the patients had C-19 and ordered to take them into our facility. Ordered how?
We received documents signed by Andrew Cuomo and the health commissioner, Howard Zucker, saying that they'd pull state funding unless we accepted all C19, that thing you can catch patients, sent to us. Few of our existing patients had tested positive, and of the first 65 they sent us, only 7 were positive for C19, but we were told to say that they all had C19, that thing you can catch, because we'd be better financially compensated, even in the absence of a positive PCR test. We were told to falsify medical records to say people who didn't have C19, that thing you can catch, had it, and to expect a new group of patients every week.
Cobble Hill Health had no room for that many more patients.
That's correct. In another correspondence, we were told not to worry about that because a pickup was to be arranged each week to remove existing C19 patients and replace them with new ones.
Replace them? Had they died of C19, that thing you can catch?
I'm unaware of any patient dying from or with C19. In our environment, people die, yes, of heart attacks and non C19 respiratory ailments, but we were told to code all deaths as C19 fatalities.
I see. Certainly not all patients in your ward suddenly dropped dead. What happened to the ones who were alive to make room for the new patients the hospital sent to you?
For the live ones, trucks, like the ones that haul frozen goods across the country, arrived every other week or so, and the patients were taken and placed in the trucks. I don't know where they went or what happened after that, but these were old and frail people, and there's no way they survived long in refrigerated trucks.
And the patients who had expired for whatever reason?
Different kinds of trucks fitted with furnaces. The bodies were hurled into them.
Didn't you realize the criminality of your actions and participation, Ms. Steiger?
Of course, but we were afraid of losing our jobs and of other things. One staff member who threatened to go to the press is was told that CPS, Child Protective Services, would take her children if she didn't keep quiet and follow instructions.
One last question. Why does transport people why transport people from hospitals to nursing homes at all? Why wouldn't he just have had these alleged C19 patients picked up at the hospitals?
I could only speculate.
The tribunal will indulge your speculation, given that you spent 25 years working in the facilities, but the officers are instructed to not consider your statement as evidence.
Hospitals are enormous institutions with thousands of people, most of them pretty healthy. If someone did have C19, there'd be a risk of the infection spreading across all the staff and patients. Hospital acquired infection is a leading cause of death in hospitals. The infirmed at nursing homes are very old and very sick and don't have much life left in them. I guess it was no big deal if they died.
Finally, did you receive any compensation for going along with this agenda?
I did not.
Rear Admiral Crandall excused the witness and slid documents onto the table behind which the 3 officer panel was seated. The papers bore bore the signatures of Andrew Cuomo and Howard Zucker. One, which Cuomo had sent to 8 nursing homes in lower New York State, instructed staff to assume patients were C19 positive, regardless of test results, if they exhibited even a single symptom of the illness, such as coughing, sneezing, wheezing or shortness of breath. We cannot jeopardize the health of the general population. All patients exhibiting symptoms of C19 should presumptively be considered to have it, unless directed otherwise by New York State Health and Human Services. Cuomo or Zucker had written. After a brief recess, Rear Admiral Crandall introduced the next witness, Marco Miranda, a former driver for Brooklyn based freight carrier BZC. He said he had been employed with BZC for 15 years and had spent most of that time hauling produce between the United States and Canada. In March of 2020, however, the company had given him new instructions. Mr. Miranda, in your deposition, you said you were one of several drivers who picked up patients at Cobble Hill Health Center. Is that correct? Cobble Hill and other places. And that operating on instructions given to you by BZC, you moved patients from those facilities into a refrigerated truck. I didn't move nobody. The staff at those places moved them and put them in the truck. Me and my partner just did the driving. That's all. But you can confirm that they were alive when placed in the vehicle? Oh, yeah, they were breathing all right. Some of them even flailed their arms, and the nursing home people sedated them for transport. How were they stored? Bunks, cots, 3 high, were installed on either side of the trailer. They were put there and strapped down. What is the temperature inside a refrigerated trailer? Oh, it's like your fridge at home. We can dial up or dial down the temperature anywhere from 65 to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. We were told to bottom out the thermostat. Did you know that the persons inside who were alive would not survive long in those temperatures? Wasn't my business. I did what I was told. Look, man, you didn't cross the Cuomo brothers. If you did, bad shit would happen to you and your family. I have a wife and 3 kids to think about. So you're saying with certitude that Cuomo was behind the orders? We knew who was calling the shots. Where were the patients taken? There was a mass grave site dug on Hart Island. We drove to City Island and people was waiting to unload the bodies and put them on ferry to Hart. I never touched a single one of them. All I did was drive. In your deposition, you said you saw Cuomo at the unloading site. Is that correct? I saw the bastard. Even snapped a pic on my phone. Rear Admiral Crandall entered into evidence a photograph of Andrew Cuomo standing beside 6 men in hazmat suits who were unloading frozen corpses from the trailer and moving them onto the ferry. Just a few more questions. Ballpark figure. How many persons did you transport between March and September of 2020? Thousands. And we wasn't the only one. We had 5 trucks going all the time. And you were promised anything in return? And were you promised anything in return for your testimony today? No. I know what we did was wrong, but we was scared. Like I said, you don't fuck with the Cuomo brothers. I just pray God forgives me. The last witness to appear was none other than Melissa DeRosa, who had been Cuomo's principal ally, aide, and mouthpiece. She resigned her position after many women accused the former governor of sexual harassment. She provided to the Office of Military Commissions countless papers and electronic files that corroborated the testimony of earlier witnesses. Mrs. DeRosa, we know you're reluctant to speak here today, but can you say as fact that your former employer, Andrew Cuomo, seated before us here today, did indeed profit from the actions he's alleged to have taken, and that he did so to foster an agenda? That agenda being to artificially amplify the threat of C19, that thing you can catch?
Yes, I can testify to that. The documents I've provided spell it all out.
And do you know as a fact that Andrew Cuomo is responsible for the murders of thousands of senior citizens who might otherwise be alive today were it not for his actions?
Tens of thousands.
Were you afraid of Cuomo?
Terrified.
After excusing the witness, Rear Admiral Crandall instructed the tribunal to carefully read the documents and to thoroughly consider the testimony it had heard. The panel sequestered itself in an antechamber and deliberated for 3 hours before returning a verdict of guilty on all counts, recommending that Andrew Cuomo be hanged for his crimes. An execution date is pending. So remember to love God as if He's the most important thing in your life, because I'll tell you, He is the most important thing in your life. He's your creator. He knows every move you make, every choice you take. And it's only by God's grace that you are not condemned if you, I'm going off script here. Remember to love God as if He's the most important thing in your life, because He is the most important thing in your life. And if you think that you love God and have God in your life, but He's not the most important thing in your life by virtue of how much time you spend thinking about other things, then you don't have God in your life at all. You have an idol, whether it be your significant other, your roommate, your fan crush, your family, um, your reputation, your career, what have you. If you have something else that you have as the most important thing in your life, you have judged God to be less important than that thing, which means you don't have God in your life at all. You have an idol. You're worshiping an idol. People were built to worship. And if you're not worshiping God, you will be worshiping an idol. It might be you're, gaining money or gaining power. Anyway, whatever it is, it's not God. And if you have a therapy dog God, or you have a consultant God that doesn't disagree with you, again, you don't have God, and that ends badly. But if you do love God and have God as the most important thing in your life, you're going to want to share. And I have, on the authority of Jesus Christ, the only begotten and divine Son of the Father, and the only way to the Father, that the best way to get others to glorify your Heavenly Father, to get other, to share God with others, is by behaving yourself so well, conducting yourself so that you so shine that the people will look at your conduct and say to themselves, I want some of that.